Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, my goodness, where are we? Let's see. Does that zoom in? I don't know if it does. Nope. What does that do? What does this do? No, that doesn't do anything. Hold on. Trying to figure out. I've never used a computer before. No, that's not it. Nope. 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 Okay. Well, it's working again. I don't know what I've just done. It doesn't feel very satisfying, but whatever. I'm so excited to be here with you, my friend. It's been a long time. Actually, I haven't seen you, Simon. Did we see each other at VOD and Create? Was that the last?
Yes, VOD and Create. Yeah, but just for a short chat.
This is so you okay. First things first. Before we get underway, can you introduce yourself to the audience so that people will know you and so that I don't butcher it?
Sure. I'm Simon. I'm from Switzerland, and I'm working as a software engineer for 30 years, doing Java development for 25 years, being a teacher in Switzerland at 2 universities, and I'm working as a consultant for many companies, different sizes, different projects. That's what I do.
I have known you for, you said 25 years. Wow, that's I've known you for a good many of those years because you are a prolific contributor to the to one of my favorite, actually several of my favorite communities, the Spring community, Vaadin, Java OQ. You've spoken at length on a lot of different topics that I care about, and so and you've become quite the authority, obviously. There, you said did you mention you're a Java champion?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just one of my all-time favorite kind of people is just one of these people who just like il uomo universale, but what's the Italian word for nerd? Il nerd universale, universal nerd, Renaissance nerd. And so yeah, it's very good to have you on the show. I know you're very busy, so thanks for taking the time. We have some people in the chat. We should attempt to answer some of these questions at some point, but let's have a conversation quickly, and then we can do some Q&A if people are interested. Sure. So first things first. I mean, what I love about you is you've got these sort of I don't know. They're not contrarian, but they're not exactly they're not the norm. They're not the prevailing sentiment sometimes. And I love that you're a brilliant person who is willing to stand up for some good ideas. One of the things I've seen you sort of spend some time on is obviously in Spring Boot. I think that's a pretty common opinion these days, but some other things like Java OQ, which I love, right? It's just a brilliant piece of software. Like what drove you to that, for example?
I'm using OR mapping since ever, to say. So I even used OR mapping before Hibernate. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, I used TopLink, and I was also always a database person. So I started as a COBOL developer on IBM mainframe back in the days. And so SQL was the language that I was always using.
Sure.
And then I went to Java, and I saw TopLink, and I thought, oh, that's a very good idea to have mapping of objects to database tables, so I don't have to care about SQL anymore.
Right.
And I'm also teaching JPA since 2007, I think, or so. So we're also using Hibernate, and I'm still teaching that. But personally, I think that it's a great abstraction level. So, and I think Hibernate is by far the best tool that you can get for that job. But sometimes you have applications that are very database centric. So the main goal of the application is to display data, to enter the data, to store it in the database. And I question myself back then if it's really a good idea to abstract that or just use Chook as a SQL layer, because I heard about Chook in the Java user group in Switzerland, because Lukas Eder is also from Switzerland, and we've been together in the Java user group. And first, when I heard about that, I said, no, that's not a good idea. Why should you do that? We have JPA, we could execute native queries if we need SQL. But finally, I realized that having SQL statements in strings in an application is just not a good idea. Even if we have text blocks now, but
Right.
it's not compile time safe. So you
Right.
can make mistakes and it will break in production, and I don't want to have that. And that's why I like Juke.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, Juke has some special features like multiset, where you can return trees from a query, not only flat tables, you can get trees. And
So this
that's
is good for like recursive structures, for example.
yeah. For example, if you have a REST API, you very often return nested structures, right? You
Yeah.
have an order with order items and products, for example, and you can get that structure with Juke in a single SQL query. So not like Hibernate, where you have lazy loading, for example,
Right.
that will do some reloading.
N+1.
Juke will do that in just one query.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, and it Juke it demands that you know a little bit about SQL, but you know if most people do, so it's not really all that big of an ask, and it rewards you with just it just feels very natural. It's the best of both worlds: compile time, validated SQL. What else do you want? It's amazing. And there is some portability there too. You can write a Java OQ query using the DSL, and where possible, sometimes it gets it's made more consistent across different dialects.
Absolutely. You even can use SQL construct from a certain SQL dialect, and
Right.
it'll transform that to your database that you're actually using. So it's really a good way.
Right.
But you could change the database. So I mean, changing the database is a difficult thing because that's not just the SQL that may change, but
Right.
also some data types, or you have
Sure.
different
Yeah.
behavior. For example, Oracle is not able to store an empty string, so you always have a null in a character column.
Yeah.
But Postgres can store empty strings, and so if you move from Oracle to Postgres, I did that 2 times. You get in trouble,
Right.
but you will notice it very late already when the application is in production. So that's it's difficult to move from one database to another.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But it's nice that you have some insulation from that variety there in the technology. For people who have never used Juke, you literally point it at your database schema, and it'll generate Java types that allow you to write select queries and update queries and all that. But you're using the statically typed Java DSL generated from this, from the reverse generated from your domain. And so you can rerun that every time. So if you change your database schema, your Java types change. And if you have an old query that references an old column, it won't compile anymore, right? Like it's very, very convenient, and it makes working with a DBA, more iterative. You can be very, very clear about what's happening because your code doesn't compile.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I love Java OQ. That, and by the way, yeah, it's a good point. Lots of cool stuff happening in Switzerland. Not least of which is that. What? Wait, what? This is an interesting perspective, but I don't quite understand it yet. Code generations in Java OQ scares me for maintainability reasons, but perhaps EJB2 hurt me just a little too much. I would have thought this would be the antidote to EJB2.
Maybe I can answer the question or try to answer the question. Yeah. So the point is, where is the database you are generating the classes from? And it depends on the size of your database, right? Yeah. But if you have a medium-sized database, you can use test containers, for example, to spin up your database to apply Flyway or Lickybase scripts, and then generate the Juke classes from this test containers database.
Right.
And how you can integrate that in your build, that's how we do it. So we even have Oracle databases spin up in a test containers because Gerald Wenzel from Oracle did a great job to create a slim Oracle database Docker image that starts very fast. So it starts on my Mac, it starts in about 15 seconds. So that's quite good. That's not as good as Postgres because Postgres just needs below a second. But it's fine, it's fine for a regular process. And so you are always sure that your database is up to date with the Flyway script or the Lickybase scripts, depending on your migration tool, and then you can generate that. That works perfectly fine. And I
Yeah.
I would say 90% of my customers are doing that today with test containers.
Yeah. Is he referring to the other way around? Is it the idea that is he imagining that we're generating the tables from Java OQ?
No, usually not. So Chook
But
is
I mean, the
database
question,
first.
I know it doesn't. I know it's database first, but is that what the question is referring to? I still don't understand the question.
Yeah. Anyway,
Flyway is another one. Liquidbase is another one. These are great tools, and they're very. If you're in a database world, these tools, there's so much richness, so many great. I mean, I guess there's Flyway for MongoDB, I think, or was it Liquidbase? One of those two has a MongoDB layer now, but basically, you've got a whole level of ecosystem richness in the JDBC/SQL world that very hard to mirror. By the way, that 13 seconds. I love Postgres. It's my database of choice. That said, I would never argue that it has more features than Oracle, right? Like Oracle is, I think, undisputed. It's the most powerful database out there, and so if 13 seconds, it's not like I'm restarting my database every single restart of my program, right? It's not serverless. It's very serverful, if you will. So I've never quibbled with that. It's an amazing database. Speaking of which, our friend Andres is in Switzerland, and I think he's looking for a new opportunity. So if you're looking for a really, really great person to work on all sorts of stuff, including database stuff, you should definitely engage Andres Almire.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Shout out to our friend there. Okay. Anyway, so I love Java OQ. It's just really cool because you've talked about it, and our friend Nicolas Frankel also in the Swiss community and the French one.
Yep.
You and me and him are also. I think there's something about I don't know. I think if you've done enough Java, you're going to run into some interesting sub communities, and one of my other favorite ones is Vaadin, right? Vaadin, again, it's not intuitive given the zeitgeist. Everybody imagines you must build single page apps and blah blah blah. But once you've tried Vaadin, it's very hard to go back. It just makes so much more intuitive sense. Can you describe what Vaadin is and why you like it?
Yeah, I also started using Vaadin like 7 years ago now because of a customer project. I used it before, but then it was the old architecture. Maybe people still remember Quit or Google Web Toolkit, but now it's completely different. And Vaadin is interesting because you can really do full stack developer as a Java developer. You don't need to know HTML or CSS or JavaScript. And then you write your application if you would write it like Swing back in the days, right? So you have a text field, you have a button, you have a layout where you put things, and then it just runs. And the magic there is that Vaadin has technology, it's called Flow, that runs in a browser. So at runtime, Vaadin applications are single-page applications, in fact.
Right.
But you don't have to care about the communication because Vaadin is doing the communication for you. And this makes Vaadin much safer than a single page application because there's no REST API. So first of all, you save time because you don't need to create a REST API. And on the other hand, you don't have the common security problems because there is no actual data sent to a REST API, but it's just exchanging like a click event, or you get back the data that will be displayed in a grid or stuff like that, and that's all hidden for you, so you don't need to care about that.
Right. So you write Java code, and when you run it, 99% of the logic runs on the server side, but there's a client side peer for the user interface, right?
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
All the state is on the server side. So if you're not dealing with JOT tokens and all that, because why would you? It's all on the server side. There's no state there that's interesting on the client, and such a good, it really works. It's very, very productive. You feel very safe because I don't know. I don't know about you, but TypeScript doesn't make me feel. I don't sleep better at night with that type system. It's not much better than just regular JavaScript. And the fact that I can just degrade down to regular JavaScript, I don't get that sense of like, well, if everything's at least compiling, everything's going to be fine. If as long as the tests are running and everything's compiling, maybe I'll be okay, right? With TypeScript, I feel like, oh, something flimsy is about to happen. I don't know where. So
you have two completely different ecosystems, right? So you have to be familiar with the Java ecosystem, with Maven or Gradle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you need TypeScript or JavaScript and NPM and package JSON and WIT and whatever could be there. And that could be overwhelming. And that's the problem, that people think you can't do full stack development. It's too complicated to know both ends of your application. But in fact, you can. You just have to choose the right technology and not maybe follow a hype. And I mean, currently I'm reviewing an application, and there they have a strict security. For example, you just can see parts of the data, and this is a single page application built with Vue. So they have to have the security layer twice on the client side. On the backend, you also have validation twice. And this is just too much work. Why should you do that? Your application will cost more. If you do it with Vaadin, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more secure. So there's no reason to do kind of application development.
If you write their validation once, that's all you need to do, because that is the client and the server side,
Exactly.
So nice.
And also, if you want to hide some data, I mean, everything that you don't put in the UI with Vaadin will never end in the browser. But if you do a REST API, you may leak some data. And if the user is just using the developer tools in the browser, he can see all the data that is transferred from client to server.
Right.
So that's not protected.
Well, and did you hear about the recent Apple App Store debacle?
Yeah, exactly.
The source maps, right? Like, oops, like you don't have that either. There's no source maps for your Java code on the client, right? We have some good questions here, by the by. Oh, wait. Okay, we had. So going back to that original question from EJB2, I think now I'm reading this next comment. Maybe they are referring to X.Doclet and EJB Doclet and all that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. I've had bad experiences with code generators breaking between versions in the past. That's why I'm a bit cautious about CodeGen in general. Oh, yeah, okay.
The point is, Juke is like JPA. I mean, if you have JPA, you can use the JPA model generator, and that would create a metadata API that you can use in the criteria API. And Juke also just creates or generates the metadata. So it generates like tables and columns and stuff like that. And this doesn't break in terms of it's not an API, so to say. It's just a representation of your database tables, and there you shouldn't have any problems about that. Yeah.
We have another great question here. Ayman asks, hello, Simon and Josh. For Vaadin, there's Vaadin, Hilla, Flow, and Vaadin itself, I think. So there used to be just Vaadin. Now there's Hilla and Flow. And in which case is each one used, and can it be used for mobile application development, responsive mobile application development? Great question.
Yeah, there's a story behind Hilla, because they just announced to not continue Hilla. That's not true. It will not continue as its own product. It will be integrated in Vaadin Flow, so you can use that. And Hilla uses now, it used to use Lit in the past. Now it's using React. And the idea of Hilla is to kind of overcome the problem that, as you said, Josh, that the Vaadin is stateful on the server.
Yeah.
And if you want to have something that needs to be highly scalable, you may not want to have the state. But on the other hand, if it comes to mobile application, you may want to have an offline capable part of your application that should work even if there's no connection to the server.
Right.
And that's where Hilla comes into play. So I wouldn't go with Hilla. I would always go with Vaadin Flow, and then add Hilla views, for example, if you need that.
Incremental.
And responsiveness is great, because Vaadin comes with a around 30 to 40 components. These components are all web components. These components are all accessible. So if you have people with disability, they can use that. And the components or the layouts are also responsive. So if you use it the right way, you also can build mobile applications that could be offline capable, that could be responsive. That is absolutely possible.
Yeah, and there's also good material design, which is another thing I love. Like Vaadin user interfaces just look great. It's a little more work to skin them and theme them, although even that just got easier. They have native CSS support now, but
Yep.
but basically out of the box, you're going to get a great looking application, right?
Yep.
And so that's another. I know that's not what people are going to Vaadin for. Is a good user interface look or style, but I mean, think about Bootstrap and all these other like CSS libraries that are level setters. You know, they're again, you just get this very nice, common, good-looking, consistent theme, and it's easy to swap out and change and all that. So, yeah, big fan, especially for data-driven, intensive applications where you want to like just get something out the door. And if you're not, I mean, most apps aren't Google, they're not Gmail, they're not serving 1 billion people every day. And for those apps that are not serving 1 billion people every day, Vaadin will be just fine. It's an amazingly productive experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I love Vaadin. Vaadin, you can use it, multiple contexts. You can build applications pretty quickly. It's again, you get this benefit of having of something that is pre-processing everything and generating only the minimal required for the client. So you get the ultimate like dead tree shaking, so to speak. You're not sending anything more than you need. I'm a big fan of Vaadin, and you mentioned GWT, Google Web Toolkit, which is what it used to be based on. For people who are using Vaadin, there wasn't a huge, I mean, some things changed, but the fact is you get this nice Java programming model, and you're largely immune to the ebbs and tides of the client side. Whereas in the JavaScript world, I have a sign that says days since my JavaScript framework changed incompatibility. It's just too often.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Vaadin, apparently you hit any. So one of the things you get in Vaadin is a grid. Yeah, it's a table. It's a nice sortable table with renderers and all that kind of stuff. Just very much like the one you get in Swing, but not so complicated as the one in Swing, obviously. And you said you hit an issue with paging data, and that led you to create this new project. What is that about?
Yeah, the point is a lot of my customers are using Spring Data JPA.
Yes.
And Spring Data JPA has, for example, a find all method where you can pass the specification or the regular find all method. Or you can write your own interface methods. And very often these methods return page.
Yeah.
So, and page has an effect if you use that, because it always executes two queries. First, it executes the fetch to get the data, and you want to page it like 50 results or so. But what it also does, it executes a count query. And if you have a REST API where you want to do paging and you would like to get the page back to the client, where the client can see how many total elements you have on the database, then that's perfectly fine. But the Vaadin grid, there you can pass two lambdas. The first one will fetch the data, and the second one will do a count.
Yeah.
And the grid only needs to count once. So
Right.
It doesn't make sense to return page from your find methods in your Spring Data JPA repository. So it's much better to return slice, because slice will also do paging, but slice will only return the data without the count.
Now, where does slice come from?
Slice is also at Spring Data. So page is extends from slice, because slice just has kind of the page inside without the count. And the page extends slice and has also total elements as a method or a property where you can get the total elements. So use slice, not page.
Okay. See, this is the kind of stuff I love learning from you about. I mean, I knew about slice, of course, but like you've taught me so many great things, and that you've given me so many great ideas over the many years. One of the things that one of my favorite um, talks of yours, whatever, one of the things you've been very animated about is sort of standing up to the uh, the dogma of microservices, right? You've been talking about self-contained services. Can you talk about that? I thought that was
Yeah.
very interesting.
So self-contained systems it's an interesting thing because it was born in Germany. Stefan Tilko was kind of the creator of that architecture style. He unfortunately passed away a few years
Here
ago,
we go. Yeah.
but it's still there
Was he at
and
AOQ?
is at that's InnoQ, right?
He
Yes.
was. Yeah. Okay.
There's a website scs-architecture.org where you can find information about that. But what the self-contained system is, in contrast to microservices, it contains the whole stack. So it also integrates the UI. Because what people were doing in the past, they were creating microservices and then they had a monolithic front end because they just thought about splitting the back end and not thinking about the front end.
Right.
And also microservices tend to be too small because, it's micro. Micro is very tiny. So we create tiny services, but you should create microservices that have a size depending on your requirements or your bounded context. If we take a word from the domain-driven design principles, maybe. And this could be rather big. So microservice could be big. But self-contained systems try to slice your application into silos, and each of these silo has UI, backend, and database combined. And the idea is to try to have self-contained systems in a size where you really can reduce the need for communication between the self-contained systems. So usually you don't need any synchronous communication because you have everything you need in your self-contained system. You can consume events or send events, for example. That's a good idea because that's asynchronous, so you're not bound to another microservice.
Does this get us into your? I've seen you talk at length about CQRS and things like this.
CQRS is a bit different, but that could be a result of if you change data, you can send that. Because something that's very important with self-contained system, you will rely on data replication.
Yeah.
So if you be autonomous, you could copy the data maybe with a scheduler, depending on what data you need, or you can send events and consume the events to update your internal data store that you need to read data. So what we do at my current project, we have a read data store and a write data store. That means every data that is coming from another self-contained system is only read-only. We cannot change that because there's a single source of truth where the data is created, and we just use the replication. So, for example, if you have an order management system, you need customer data, you need product data, and this data you can copy. And depending on how
you can view a representative view of that data, basically.
Absolutely. So in the simplest case, you just create a view and you get the data from there. Databases have materialized views. So that means you can copy data with a view from one database to another. So your database will not break if the other database is not there. And that's the idea. So you create a simple self-contained system. So that's just an application part. I mean, 30 years ago, we were talking about subsystems. It's the same concept, just another name.
Right.
And Vaadin is a perfect fit, by the way, for these things, because as you mentioned before, Vaadin has components. Vaadin is stylable with theming and CSS and stuff like that. And you can create a design system. So you create your own components, you add styling to the Vaadin components, and then you just use that as a dependency in your main project, for example, or in Gradle project, and you're done. So you can use that.
Okay. I mean, this is such a good topic. You've done I when I was doing my preparation for this interview, I found the German version of some of your talks. Do you have a German version of your self-contained systems one?
It's not. I don't think there's no recording because there are two recordings, one from the Java Champions Conference and the other from the Spring I/O in
Okay.
Barcelona this year. But there's no German. But I gave that talk last week in Mainz at the in Munich at the JUX conference.
Okay. By the way, you have a distinctly Italian last name. So people in Switzerland. There's you have a French contingent, the German contingent, and then the somewhat smaller minority of Italian people. What do you have any? Do you speak any Italian or?
I speak Italian, but not because of my name. So I just learned that at school. But my relatives moved 200 years ago from the Italian-speaking part to the French-speaking part first, and then finally to the German-speaking part. So the only Italian thing is just my last name. So that's
so cool. I love Switzerland. Okay, so okay, this is all this stuff I love. I mean, I'm a big fan of all this stuff, and I understand it, which is nice because I don't understand a lot. You've met me. It's not pretty. But one of the things they've been talking about recently, which is really cool, but I don't quite understand, and I'd love you to kind of walk me through it. Is what is when you talk about AI spec-driven development? What all is that? What's this? What you're talking about?
Yeah. So. I'll tell you a story. So I'm in a sports club in Switzerland. My father was in a sports club. He was the president of the sports club. My son is in the sports club, and we are doing track and field. So we do jumping and running and stuff like that. And I started writing software for that sports club in 1997. So 2 years after I started as a software engineer, I thought that they do competition, for example, for kids. And I thought we need software to do the ranking, right? So we need ranking lists and stuff. And I started there. And last year, and we also organized some beach party, for example, in the summer in Switzerland. I live on a lake, so we have a beach party, and there we need volunteers. And we have kind of an application that is very old, and the volunteers can subscribe for the event, for the shifts that they want to help us, for example, grilling or whatever at the bar. And it's more or less a year ago, a friend of the sports club came to me and said, "Hey, you're a software engineer. This application is not good. And I know there is AI. You can do that. So create us a new application for that to manage the volunteers." And then I said, "Sure, I can do that." And it was around September last year. And I started using Windsurf. So that Windsurf is kind of the first tool that I knew how to do kind of agentic AI development. And in January, I realized that's not going to work. So I created a complete mess. I didn't know what was implemented, what not. I had no process to work on that. And at that time, I read an article from Simon Maple. He's also a Java champion, by the way.
Right.
He's working for a company called Tessel. And Tessel started to do a tool for doing spec-driven development. So spec-driven development, the idea of spec-driven development is you don't focus on the code, you focus on the spec. So spec is the center of what you're doing. And from the spec, you can generate the code or the tests or whatever. And I was looking at Tesla. There is also from Amazon a spec-driven tool that's called Kiro. And then we have GitHub Spec Kit. It's also spec-driven.
Mm-hmm.
But this all remind me kind of model-driven. You remember model-driven?
Oh, yeah. MDA.
It didn't work very well. So it was a bit of a problem. So in some cases, it worked very well. In other cases, it didn't.
Right.
But what I realized is that this spec-driven idea of the tools
Do you remember Andromeda?
Yeah.
That was actually, I did some terrible things with Andromeda. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. We had open architecture by the way. That was also kind of a model-driven thing.
Right.
And I thought that's too low level because if I have to spec down to the interface of the class or something, then I can write my code directly. Why should I do that with AI? And that was kind of the same with model-driven. And I step back. So I deleted the code that I generated because this was not working. And then I thought, how could I do that? And then I remembered a very old process. It's called Rational Unified Process. I'm
Ra-
sure you remember that.
yeah.
Philip Kruchten back in 90s created that. And
Right.
it was then some
Acquired by
IBM
IBM.
product, something like that. But I remembered that we had kind of artifacts and roles that are working in the process. So, I mean, it was bloated. So if you used every artifact, every process, every actor or role that you had in the Rational Unified process, that was too much, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Over
I was
specification.
thinking maybe I could get some inspiration out of that. And I realized that you have a vision, so what you want to build.
Yeah.
Then you have requirements, something that you want to get built. And then you need a spec. So that's why I also talk about spec-driven development. But back in the days with Rational Unified Process, the spec was use cases.
Right.
And then I had a look at the use case and thought, that could be a good thing because a use case has a precondition, a postcondition, has actors and a flow, alternative flows.
Right.
And then I tried that out. So I step back, created requirements for my volunteer management system, and then generated use cases. So, for example, create event, add volunteer, whatever. And you can generate also the specification, so the use cases with AI, because you can tell, okay, that's my requirement. How could I do that?
Right.
And then you have this nice specification. And from that, you can generate the code. And that's what I've been doing. So I really do spec-driven development with use cases.
Yeah.
I also have use case diagrams where I can track the progress, see if the use case is implemented or not. And I do the specification, and then I tell Claude Code. So that's my favorite tool, but you can do that with Juni or with Codex, or it doesn't really matter with which agent you use. And then I say, okay, please implement the use case. So that works because I do the scaffolding and add guardrails. So I use for sure Vaadin and Juk
Sure.
with Spring Boot, with Spring Security. And so I do all the scaffolding myself. So I would never let AI generate a Spring Boot project because
Right.
then you will get a Spring Boot project with version 3.1 maybe.
Mm.
So, and with very old Juk and Vaadin version. So I do that by my own. And because of some MCP servers, so we have a brilliant MCP server for Vaadin, by the way. They just released that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. So AI knows how to use Vaadin. And I created a MCP server for Juk and an MCP server for Caribou. Caribou is a testing framework. And
Right.
the special thing that we didn't mention about Vaadin is you can test browserless. So that means, like we have mock MVC for Spring Boot,
Right.
we have Vaadin mock or Caribou mock. And so we don't need a browser. Everything happens on the server. No Tomcat is running. It's just interacting with the UI, with your classes without any overhead. That means a Caribou test is as fast as a mock MVC test. So
Wow.
no stuff involved. And so you can really test everything. And what I do, I create the implementation with Vaadin. I review that. So the human is always in loop with the AI. I created the AI unified process, it's called. You can see that it's aiup.dev. And so I generate the code, then I review that. And with Caribou test, I can generate also the front end or the full stack test, so to say. And this helps very much. So I have around 70 use cases in my case, in my application. And I have great code coverage because I really can test everything, expect the browser. And this gives a lot of security because if I do changes, I do changes in the use case and just tell AI, please update the code based on the changes. And this works very well. I mean, it depends. So because we have a lot of moving parts. First of all, AI is not that deterministic. So if I would generate 2 times the same thing, I would get different results. Hello, Anton.
Another friend of ours. Small world.
And yeah, but I don't regenerate. So maybe
Right.
the difference between my process and model-driven that we were mentioning is model-driven was the idea you have a model and you can always regenerate the code. So you
From whole
change
cloth.
something, you generate everything. But I don't regenerate anything. I just maintain thing, right? So I generate to an initial generation, I review that, give advice what could be better. And if then I have changes, I just let AI update the code. I don't regenerate the code.
Right. And
But
and this is the nice thing with rational and because rational was like use cases. It was to use cases what UML is to object
yeah,
orientation and swim lanes are to process definitions and all that, right?
absolutely.
But there was, like with UML, you could over specify your UML to the point where you would get one for one Java objects,
Yeah,
and at which point, like you said earlier, why, like just why not write the Java code? It's actually less work,
yeah,
and so it sounds like one of the benefits, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it sounds like one of the benefits is with the AI, it can extrapolate and infer the specificity of the task. You don't have to fill in all the details there. It can infer
yeah,
some. It's an AI. It can
yeah,
extrapolate for
absolutely.
you.
Because on the other hand, there are other artifacts that I use. For example, I have a data model. So with the diagram, I do also diagrams. So
Yeah.
with Plan to UML or Mermaid, so diagram is code, everything is code, it's markdown usually.
Right.
And I also have specified the data model. Like I can generate with AI from this specification, I can generate also the flyway scripts, for example.
Right.
And but the important thing is that maybe it doesn't work with all types of applications, because usually I do kind of business applications, right? You have a UI, you have a database, you have some business logic. And
Sure.
for that, this process really works very, very well. And
Right.
again, I would say my process works to me so good because I use, again, the right tools. Because as I said, Vadin is a great tool. You stay in the ecosystem, so AI just has to generate Java code, and you
Right.
just have to understand Java code. With addition of the MCP server that gives advice, that provides tools to the AI that can be used to see,
Right.
okay, I need a popover, for example. How do I use a popover? It can ask the tool of the MCP server. And also SQL is something that works very well with AI because it's declarative and it's very well known how SQL works. And Juk is just SQL. So generating Juk code with AI is just simple. So it really doesn't require much. I just created the Juk MCP server because there are some specialties that in newer versions, or that maybe are not so common, that maybe LLMs do not know about, or they do not generate the right code with that.
Amazing. Okay. So I linked to that before. That's aiup.dev. That I'm gonna go ahead and try out myself. We should do another live stream at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, wherein we can just actually we could, spec-driven development ourselves, something, cool. I don't know, whatever. It'd be great to do that if you have some free time. But for this podcast, I always like to wind down with 3 very important questions. Are you on the internet? Do you want to be found? And if so, where can people find you?
Yeah. So you will find me everywhere. So on X or on Blue Sky or Mastodon or LinkedIn. And I have a website. It's martinelli.ch. And that's my company. So I'm a consultant. It's just me. I don't have any employees. But that's my website where you find a blog. So I very often write about full stack development or other funny things. Lean software development, for example. Do you remember lean software development
Yeah, of
from Mary
course.
Dick? I wrote some articles about that, how to transfer like the ideas of lean software development from 20 years ago to
Wow.
now and maybe the future. And yeah, that's where we you can find me.
And I've read your blogs, and for years I've been linking to your content in This Week in Spring, and just you're a mainstay at a lot of the conferences that I'm at, and you're such a legend. I'm always happy to get a chance to learn from you. You're obviously also very pragmatic, right? You can just listening to you talk, it's very clear you're somebody's out there building stuff, and you have some tempered by time and experience advice. So thank you for taking the time to share some of it with us, and I hope people will check out all the cool stuff you shared today. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you, as always. We should do that more often.
Yes, please. And everybody who hung out, it's morning for folks in Europe, so good morning to you, and also in Africa and so on. So if it's your daytime, okay, thank you very much for being here. If it's late in the evening, as it is for me, thank you also for being here. And if it's in the evening, what time is it now? It's 1 o'clock here, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, therefore in Asia, like East Asia. So work backwards a couple hours earlier in India. Okay, well, whatever. It's late in the day. People are fixing to get off work pretty soon in parts of the world. So thank you, everybody who's hung out. I appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day, whatever that is. Bye.
Bye-bye.